Yeah, welcome. This is the report from the End Times Research Ministry, and I just want to cover a little bit about the warning that Paul gave to us about the call for peace and safety, and how this call for peace and safety, when you heard it, you would see that sudden destruction came when they are calling for peace and safety. You'll see that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. So I'm going to give you some information that came out about the call for peace and safety and where we're headed. It says, Kerry, to the U.S. Jews, next few days will determine the Middle East fate for decades. Let me go down, because Kerry was addressing, as you can see here, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry speaks to the American Jewish Committee Global Forum in Washington, June 3rd. Now, this was 2 days ago. It says the coming days will be crucial for both the Israelis and the Palestinians, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said Monday, warning against dire implications of failing to reach a two-state solution. In a speech to the American Jewish Committee, Kerry stressed to a strongly pro-Israel crowd the need for urgent progress on the peace deal, ending more than 6 decades of conflict, providing Israel with regional security and Palestinians with their long-sought independent state. So right there you'll see that the headlines, they're talking about this peace process, and also what they're talking about, guess what? They're talking about security. That's what the Lord told us we would be hearing in the last days, peace and security. And it's no joke, it's upon us. We see it in the news just about every single day. It goes on to say, if we do not succeed now, we may not get another chance, Kerry said about the peace process. There you go again, talking about the peace process, what may happen if the peace process doesn't go forward, if it doesn't somehow come to a fruition, to come some kind of peace agreement. But we know from the scriptures already, from 1 Thessalonians, exactly what's going to happen. There will be no fruition to peace. What's going to happen, it will be sudden destruction that will be coming while they're still calling for peace and safety. Goes on to say, starting from right here, describing it as hardly a process at all right now. And I have heard all the arguments for why it is too difficult to end this conflict, he said. Cynicism has never solved anything. It has never given birth to a state, and it won't. Now, Kerry warned that without a two-state solution, so there you go, you have Barack Obama's man trying to separate the nation of Israel, divide it up. This means the United States, no doubt, is under the curse that we see in Genesis chapter 12. You'll see it in Joel chapter 3 and in Zechariah chapter 12 as well. Israel will have to choose between its Jewish and democratic nature. He also stressed that the need to recognize the fundamental aspirations of the Jewish or the Palestinian people. Well, right now we see that those aspirations are to hit Israel with rockets and mortars. Those who believe in the Israeli-Palestinian status quo is sustainable and that the separation fence will bring security to Israel are lulling themselves into delusion, the U.S. Secretary of State said. Now, what he is talking about here, in case you're new and you don't know, there is a fence that I talk about it quite a bit, that divides up the Palestinian people from the Israelis. That fence runs 320 miles long. It's about 20 feet high. And of course, we do know that that wall will be up when the first war hits, the Psalm 83 war. And then later the wall, no doubt, will come down when Israel feels safe. And that will obviously be indications that the next war, the Ezekiel 38 war, is about to take place when those walls go down and Israel feels safe and secure enough to do that. Now, the absence of peace is perpetual conflict. And of course, this is what we read about in 1 Thessalonians, so he's right on the mark there. We find ourselves in a negative spiral of responses and counter-responses that could literally slam the door on a two-state solution, he said. Now, Kerry also warned that Israel would be isolated. Go ahead and read, Kerry, what it says in Zechariah chapter 12, because that's exactly what the Lord said in the last days. all the people of the earth will be gathered against it. So obviously, Kerry, it doesn't look like you know too much about what the prophets had to say. So it goes on to say, Israel would be isolated in the international arena if the standstill continues. Well, why, Kerry? My question is this. Why are you just picking on Israel again? Why not you picking on the Palestinians, saying the Palestinians are going to be isolated because those are the people that are sending the rockets over into Israel at a time where they're suggesting that they want this peace and security. Now, the Palestinians have already begun considering opting for unilateral efforts at the United Nations. And if they do so, they will garner more votes than they did the last time when they sought an advanced non-member observer state status, he said. And furthermore, the eruption of the protest movement in the West Bank would result in great delegitimization of Israel, said Kerry, causing against the dire potential of what might happen if the Palestinian Authority were to collapse. In other words, he's talking about war, or the more extreme, if you will. Abbas is extreme enough, but according to what I'm getting out of this, that it would fall in the hands of even more extremists. So the U.S. Secretary of State said the best way to guarantee Israel's security, and here we go again, 1 Thessalonians 5:3, when they're calling for peace and security, would be by reaching a two-state solution, and that one state for all peoples is simply an unrealistic scenario for both sides. So there you have it. That's the call. That's what's going on, the call for peace and safety. The Lord told us that this is one of the things of the last days we're supposed to be looking for. And it's just unfortunate that here we have the Secretary of the State, John Kerry, the representative of the United States, doing the exact opposite of what God stated that he wants for his people. And obviously, if he says he's going to cut you into pieces, and Kerry's quoting the Bible, apparently he didn't quote that. Maybe he doesn't know about it, but maybe somebody ought to tell him about it, because what he's breathing on one side of his mouth brings curse on the other. When you say that you want to provide a two-state Israel, what you do is you heap on the curse of Genesis 12, chapter 12 there.